In some new lore cards, we get an update on the condition of one of the most legendary warlocks to ever live, Osiris. Since Season of the Lost, Osiris has been in a coma. Will he survive? What is his partner Saint 14 up to and thinking about during this time? And will they be reunited sometime soon? In Season of the Lost, we get a card titled the Wolf Tone Draw from a bow, where Osiris explains what it's like having Savathun invade his body. The slithering dark is cold against my face. I cannot speak, cannot breathe. I reach for Sagira, but then I remember. I form a fist but feel nothing. I am bound, and as I thrash, the images cut fissures through my mind. Someone, the awoken prince? He helps me to my feet, but still I struggle in the dark, and now she is standing, thanking him, but she uses my voice. My voice. She has stolen my form, my voice, but someone will see my failure and cast her out. They must. A glimmer of sunlight. How long has it been? Zavala looks at me, at her, considers her words, poison cloaked in wisdom. I cry out, he must know. Zavala, listen, listen. You know me. You know not to. The smell of night flowers. I am walking. She is walking through a moonlit garden. And there is Ikora, speaking, laughing, nodding. Look, Ikora, look at me. Don't you see it? Pay attention. Pay attention. I taught you better than this. A woman, an exo, sits before me and sways, eyes vacant, but inside she is sinking as well. Now her voice, her true voice, humming, a gyre of sound, and the exo sways faster and faster. I hear his voice and push to the surface. Saint. No, 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 I scream, but there is no sound. He looks into her eyes. He smiles. He reaches for me, but it's not me. Saint, that is not me. Please, please. I am weeping, but I cannot weep. I am nothing, only heat and hate, only sickness and shame. Trust me, I hear a voice say, and I drown again. So we know that Savathun took over Osiris's body back around Season of the Hunt. Throughout Chosen, Splicer, and Lost, Savathun would infiltrate the city and learn our secrets using his body. After that, she would shed his form to claim the light for herself just before the Witch Queen expansion, returning the unconscious body of Osiris to our doorstep before fleeing to her throne world. This is my first time reading that lore, maybe some of your first times hearing it, and some of us may have thought Osiris was automatically put into a coma, maybe he was a different version of him, and Savathun just took that form, but as it seems, he was aware of this whole time, and even was reaching out to our closest guardians to try and get them to realize it. When the Witch Queen would give Osiris back to us, be returned in Season of the Lost, Saint 14 would bring him to the tower. At this point, all we can do is wait. Osiris lost Sagira and was lightless. Now he sits here in the tower in his coma, lifeless, and all Saint can do is just have hope.
Thank you, friend. Savathun tried to bury him, to use him like currency for bargaining. She wore his face and spoke with his voice, but they were not his words. I did not believe the Witch Queen would hold to her promise. I thought I would never see him again. He is lost in sleep. Without the light, it is difficult to know if he will recover. But he is safe. I need time, Guardian. I will see to Osiris's care. When he awakens, I want my face to be the first he sees. Perhaps I will joke that now we are even. Savathun has many enemies, but she has never faced Saint 14. We will find her, and this time it is her who will be buried.
In Witch Queen, we have the Tusked Allegiance robes, where Mithrax brings some food to Saint and asks if he can connect his mind to the Cyan machine to speak with Osiris. Mithrax delicately pushed a low curtain aside as he entered the bedroom. Tall shelves crowded him, cluttered with relics from Mercury and beyond, piles of intricate scrolls, silver hourglasses that turned on their own accord, ceramic pots of red soil sprouting delicate metallic vines beneath glass domes. An enormous feathered mantle was mounted carefully on a wooden stand and crowned with a bird-like cowl. The hulking form of Saint 14 sat in a wooden chair facing the bed where, impossibly small beneath the blankets, rested the man known as Osiris. Mithrax rapped politely on the doorframe. "My friend," Saint 14 said, "it is good of you to come." Mithrax approached Saint and bowed. "It is an honor to be invited," he said. "These visits are pleasant to me." He held out the covered dish he was carrying in his lower arms, but Saint's eyes remained fixed on Osiris. The Titan took a ragged breath. His voice was a hoarse whisper. "Could the Cyan machine connect my mind with his, so that I might share his dreams?" Mithrax felt useless. He spoke softly. "The Cyan tells me the subject must have residual activity for reading, and Osiris has been asleep very long. Besides, the connection you seek joins the light of one being to the light of another, and Osiris is lightless, yes," Saint finished flatly. He leaned forward in his chair, his elbows on his knees, hands clasped before him. He was silent for some time. "I will let him sleep alone," Saint finally said, and caressed Osiris's hand with impossible tenderness. "When he wakes, we will dream together once more." He adjusted the blankets, stood, and nodded toward the covered dish Mithrax still clutched awkwardly. "I am hoping that is not more eggplant," he said. Mithrax coughed on his ether. "The eggplant is most nourishing," he protested weakly, and Saint groaned. So that card gives us even more insight into the relationship between Mithrax and Saint 14. We know how the Fallen or the Elixni hated Saint in the past, as he would kill many of them, but now they're friends. That card was from Witch Queen in those robes. Here are some updates from this season in Season of the Haunted. In the first one, Saint speaks about Osiris's condition with the crow and about nightmares of Osiris. This comes from the Hushed Shrink's ship. Out of his armor, laid in a sterile bed and cloths and linen, Osiris looks thin and frail. Age wears lines into his face deeper than the trenches of Mercury. His chest rises and falls with slow breaths, and the ambient light provided by the surrounding medical equipment casts him into a pale blue shade, darkening the hollows beneath his eyes. He is a threadbare remnant of a man. In contrast, Saint 14 is a mountain. Even seated at Osiris's bedside, the Titan looms over him like a gargoyle keeping watch. He looks at Osiris's hand, seemingly tiny, cradled within his own. There is so much fear in Saint's heart, so much doubt, and so much unspoken love. Too unspoken, never again. Saint lifts Osiris's hand to his mouth and kisses his knuckles. "I'm glad you're staying," Crow says, appearing in the doorway of the medical bay. Saint stands and only offers a silent nod in response, looking back at Osiris in a moment of uncertainty. Crow gives him a look of sympathy. "I understand." "You do not." Saint's voice is tight, and Crow feels the shift in Saint's emotion. Not anger, but defensiveness. "Tell me something. Up there." He points skyward, indicating the Leviathan in orbit over Earth. "Your doubts, your shame, they come alive?" Crow looks away for a moment, distracted by turbulent memories. "Yeah," he replies. "This is why I do not go to help," Saint states in a firm tone. Because I know Osiris will be waiting for me, up there, and I cannot bear seeing another thing wearing his face." Crow avoids Saint's gaze. He can feel the uneasy tension palpable between them. Still, Crow steps forward and gently places a hand on Saint's arm. When he looks into the Exo's eyes, it is not with judgment, but empathy. Saint considers Crow's hand for a moment before drawing the hunter into a tight embrace. "You are a good bird. Thank you." So there we see the connection between Crow and Saint 14 when discussing Osiris and why Saint is not out there helping us because he doesn't want to see these nightmares and something else wearing his face like Savathun did. In the second Chancellor card, we see Saint discussing with Shaxx. A high-pitched whistle echoed off the walls of Bannerfall as the shield soared through the air. It ricocheted off one broken pillar, then another, before Shaxx caught it in midair. He held it firm, its void light illuminating his armor. "So how is he?" asked the Crucible handler. He threw the shield back the way it came, bouncing it off a tree and then a crate until it landed in Saint 14's deft hands. "No change," Saint answered with a frustrated sigh. He hurled the shield forward, watching it rebound back to Shaxx, who caught it and held it again. "Sometimes Saint's voice trembled as he trailed off, and Shaxx lowered the shield to his side. "Yes? Sometimes I wonder if I deserve this," Saint continued. "I keep thinking back to the Elixni who cowered from me in fear, the monstrous things I did to their people. What if Osiris is being made to pay my debts?" Slowly, Shaxx lowered the edge of the shield to rest on the ground. "When I was a warlord," he said, his voice unusually quiet, "I inflicted immeasurable pain and suffering on both humans and Elixni. Now I train guardians for battle. Some might even call me a role model." It was Shaxx's turn to sigh. "But they'd be wrong." He lifted the shield and gave it another toss. Saint caught the shield one-handed, then let its light fizzle out. "Are you telling me not to blame myself?" Shaxx shook his head. "I'm telling you that people don't always get what they deserve in life, us included." He formed his light into a new shield and sent it flying through the air. In that card where Mithrax brought Saint a dish of eggplant, we saw how that connection was extended, and it goes even further in this next card in Season of the Haunted, where Saint wants to open Osiris's journal and belongings, but Mithrax distracts him once more, and Saint is thankful for Mithrax. From the Horus shell, we see this. Electric lights recessed above the air stair of Saint 14's jumpship Buzz, punctuated by the occasional plink from a loosed ballast. The mechanical din is reminiscent of insects, a subtlety normally lost to the noise of the tower's hangar. But the area is quiet at this hour, long before dawn. The absence of activity felt deeper, lonelier. Saint sits on the steps beneath his ship, a dog-eared journal clasped in his large hands. The bronze eye embossed on the cover marks it as a belonging to Osiris. A delicate lock conceals the contents. Saint's thumb teases the corner of the clasp. It would take insignificant effort to break it, a significant violation of Osiris's privacy. Still, the temptation pulls at his fingers. Geppetto, Saint's ghost, transmats in over his shoulder. "Call for you," she says with a glance down to the journal, then affixes a firm eye of judgment on him. The Titan shrinks away from her stare. "Pull it through," Saint says. He welcomes a distraction. "Saint," Mithrax's voice comes in loud and clear through Geppetto. "I did not expect you to answer. It seems we are both unable to find proper rest." "Yes," Saint agrees in a small voice, his attention wavering. "What was it you needed, Mithrax?" "We have a supply shipment that just came in," Mithrax says with a hint of hope in his voice. "We could use another set of hands." Saint does not immediately reply as he runs one hand over the journal. Geppetto nudges him, and he sighs, setting the journal aside. "I can help," he says. "You point, I lift, right?" His weary laugh is telling. "That's good to hear. Ido has been looking forward to seeing you again," Mithrax says, gently. Saint nods to himself, slowly rising from the steps. Geppetto zips over and transmats the journal back to Saint's home in a crackling stream of light. "Thank you for thinking of me, friend," Saint says over his shoulder. Geppetto looks to him, unsure if his words were directed at her or Mithrax, but then she realizes it was both. From the wolf-tone draw bow, we saw Osiris was aware that he was in Savathun's body and was hoping that other characters would spot him and realize this. In Season of the Haunted from the Falcon's Chase Sparrow, Osiris's mind struggles while he is asleep, and he reaches out and believes to feel Saint 14. Darkness floods me like breath, expanding with each thought. For a time, it flowed out as often as in, giving me space to surface above the pressing sea and glimpse the cruel storm above, the distant hope of shore. But now there is only sea, and nothing true remains. I shut all three of my eyes. I curl in on myself, offering the world my exoskeleton as a shield. No, I am human, soft and vulnerable, shellless and lightless. Waves crash over me, heavy, choking, inexorable. No choice but to drown, no point in swimming. Even the armored succumb to the depths. What chance have I? I washed up on a shattered stone breakwater. I do not know my limbs. I want what? This craving pit echoing deep within me, what does it seek? I would crawl inland if I owned myself, if only to make the hungering stop. The world erupts beneath me. Stone becomes quicksand in an instant. I struggle, fear before thought, and it swallows me all the faster. I reach for aid, and my hand is held. Saint? My fingers brush through open air, met instead by gripping claws. They tear at flesh and mind, wearing a grim intimacy, dripping in the sacrifice of thousands. I know these lie-sharpened talons. Would I could tear that understanding from the synaptic heart of me. I am 100 shards of myself, shimmering, broken in free fall, glimpsing my own infinite reflections. Some shine gold, some burn sickly green, and some fade as soon as they are witnessed. I cannot guess which one is real. Perhaps one is her. Perhaps I am her. My senses lie. A familiar voice calls out, sonorous against the abyss. Incomprehensible but sweet. I think I hear the fluttering of wings, but the hum of the sundial gives no direction. How long has it been? So there we have some current up-to-date lore cards about the Osiris situation and what is going on. Osiris is still in this coma-like state, and Saint 14 still has hope for him to return to who he was so they can share these memories and connections again. As we've witnessed, Osiris has been through a lot, seeing those visions through Savathun when she took over his body, and now in these dreams fumbling through hive figures and Saint's embrace. There may be some other cards with some smaller lore. If you find those and they have any interesting information, be sure to leave that in the comments below. If you'd like to see some more Destiny lore and mysteries just like this video, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Anyway, I thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video.